You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome to another edition, folks. This is Mr. Green, and we are coming back on WOW. If you believe it or not, it is season 4, stretching all the way back to 2001, and we're up in 2017, and it's just on season 4. There's something, diametrically wrong with that, but who am I to go on about it? Anyhow, again, this is Mr. Green, and you are listening to the WPN Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. And as you may or may not know, if you go to our YouTube channel, of course, Women's Pro Wrestling Network on YouTube, there is an entire Season 1 review of WOW that you can kind of go through. If you haven't watched any of it, or you had no intentions of watching it, you can always go through that and listen to it episode by episode and see what exactly was going on in the WOW with all their shows they had in the can, which is exactly what that was at the time. It was episodes that was sitting in the can that they more or less chopped up to make a season or so worth of footage. Full disclosure, this is the second time I'm doing this particular episode. The first one, the audio didn't come out all that great, so I'm having to do this again. So, hopefully I can remember all of the good stuff that I said, because I don't have access to my notes right now. So we're going to basically kind of get this thing going on the fly. But most of which I think I can recall it. I mean, I've watched enough of the episodes. So as I'm recording this, WOW has kicked back into gear. They are on season 4, and they have released 2 episodes and 2 bonus clips and a trailer thus far. And I will say, starting out the gate, looks good. I mean, the footage looks really crisp. They have taken an entirely different pace. There are some things that I don't necessarily agree with as far as the show is concerned, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But first, let's for those that have limited knowledge of the previous seasons of WOW, season 2 and season 3, let's jump back in that just for a second. Season 2 and season 3, for those that didn't know, were taped somewhere along the lines of 2012 and released maybe about 3 years later. So you had a pretty good layover in terms of the amount of footage and what was going on with these individuals at the time. And even now, even the layover between season 3 and season 4, they couldn't, there just was a big gap between the releases of these things. So what you wound up getting was WOW having to cut this to the best of their ability to try and make up for the space that went on. If you went back and you listened to certain episodes, I think the first championship defense, which featured Lana Starr taking on Sunshine, which is a ridiculously terrible match. But if you go back and listen to that, they would make references to things that things and characters that took place in the first season of WOW, which was in 2001, which is a decade apart. And why they were making reference to that when there was going to be no payoff to it, because they, like the Beach Patrol. I'll just go ahead and say it. They were trying to imply that Sunshine was part of the Beach Patrol, a team that didn't even exist any longer. And again, it was just making it very difficult for them to kind of piece this thing together. But they tried their best, and they got you the matches of the entire season. You probably got 2 or 3 matches that were pretty good. And then they went off and they started doing a little bit of a transition. Now, this is where we start to roll into season 4, where in the things that I have to give a little bit of thumbs up about. So we're going to try to take this bit by bit. The first thing is that I believe when I did the first season review, one of my suggestions was I wish that they were less of a television show and more of a wrestling promotion. Well, I seemingly have gotten that wish. In the time that they have gone into producing season 4, they also have started doing what they call Friday Night Fights. Friday Night Fights is something that WoW is doing out in Los Angeles, and I want to say the 2 locations that they've used, they've had it in an outside parking lot, kind of a guerrilla style wrestling show, and they've also been on inside of I want to say a ballroom, a hotel ballroom. I can't remember the name of that location off the top of my head. But what they were doing is that they hold these live events, which is something WoW very rarely, I'm not even going to say rarely, something WoW didn't do. WoW originally was just a television show. It was a television show from start to finish, and they really didn't extend beyond that all that much. If you went up and down the roster, you might have seen, and I'm talking about the original cast here, you might have seen 1 or 2 people who legitimately had some sort of wrestling background. When WoW was reintroduced in seasons 2 and 3, that roster got blended a bit, and I would say you probably was dealing with somewhere in the line of a 60-40 split, let's say. 60% dealing with non-wrestling personalities opposed to the 40% that they brought in, like a Jesse Bell Smulders, like a Amber O'Neal, like a Santana Garrett. We'll put Jungle Grrrl in that because she actually did have a run in the independent circuit before she retired. A lot of people forget about that. But so you were still kind of leaning more towards the model and the actresses and whatnot. But now that they do these Friday Night Fights, you kind of push a lot of that out of the way, and you've got more wrestlers who've come into play, and they've started doing these shows for them. Local talents that's out there, Hudson Envy. A lot of people know her. Of course, on TV, she's known as Spike. Uh, Bambi, she's come back. She seems to be pretty tightly woven into the fabric of WoW. She's listed as a trainer, and unofficially, in my view, she's like an ambassador to the show. I'll get into uh, her doing those things a little bit later on. But they have moved on and they've started doing these Friday Night Fights, and they would shoot it. I was going to say record, but it's not really recorded. They shoot it on Facebook Live. And for all intents and purposes, let's not even say that they shoot it on Facebook Live. They provide you a portal to see what's going on and kind of keep up with who's winning what and where the rankings are, for lack of a better term, and any major storylines. They may break out the cell phone of somebody recording it like that. So it's really not a high production piece, but it is it is wrestling, and it's overwhelmingly wrestling, which I am like seriously surprised about because again, up until this point, WoW had been primarily a television show, and the wrestling was kind of on the back burner. But they unveiled some key storyline points which have bridged season 3 to season 4, which I thought was done, nicely done. I was happy to hear that it was done, opposed to what they did the last time, where they just made up stuff and they were saying, "Oh yeah, Lana Starr won this title at a house show that we did back in 2002, and she just held on to the title ever since." And of course, we know that never happened. Now some phantom title change that they just did for TV purposes, but this time, because they are doing these seemingly weekly wrestling events, they actually were able to have Lana Starr come out there, and David McClain had this interaction with her and say, "Hey, look, we found out you are injured, and I know you want your rematch. You just lost the championship last season, but I cannot, in good conscience, allow you to get the championship match because your doctor says you're hurt, and it could be career-ending, blah blah blah." So, they've given you a reason as to why it is not Lana Starr going for the championship, which then led into them doing a series of matches They didn't unveil all the matches. That's the downside. That's a con for me. They have not unveiled all the matches. I don't even think they even show you all the clips. And for that matter, sometimes they don't even list the names that was in the thing, and I think that's a little bit of a downer. It's like you could at least on your website write it up. If you can't do anything else about it, just write the thing up. If you don't want us to see it, if you won't go through the trouble of putting it on Facebook, and I don't want to show this whole thing live for people who didn't pay. All right, fine, I get that. I'm fine with that. But write it up, at least so people that's outside of the LA area can read about. Okay, this person, she beat this person to advance to the next round, and so on and so forth. But anyway, ultimately speaking, it wound up being Khloe Hurtz, the all-natural Khloe Hurtz, who won this tournament of sorts to become the number one contender and be able to challenge Jungle Grrrl at what would be their next live event, which would be at the Belasco Theater in downtown LA, which also would serve as a venue, as a taping point for what would be season 4 of WoW. So they had a nice transition off into live events, right into the next season of WoW that is being released to the public. And I thought that was pretty smooth that they did that. Very nice that they provided some sort of bridging point, gave you something to get excited about, a little bit of storyline, and that was cool. That was a cool thing. And for once in the history of the women of wrestling promotion, it felt like a wrestling promotion. And the fact that they have far less of the models and the actresses and that were on WoW, and all due respect to them, I'm not knocking them because some of them actually turned out to be pretty good, and if they had stuck with it, who knows? But or at least competent. But they have far less of those in there now, and they've just moved on to getting more wrestling talent like Holiday. Holiday is a girl that is essentially local to L.A. or the California area, and is known for tagging with Thunder Rosa and as the Twisted Sisters. But she is listed as a girl on the WoW roster, and somehow she managed to keep her name because, nominally speaking, if they can change the name, it looks like they can, or like they will. Like I was just talking about Khloe Hurtz, the all natural. Well, we know her as Katie Forbes, the Barbie badass on the independent circuit. She's dating Rob Van Dam. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, if you haven't seen Khloe Hurtz, aka Katie Forbes, that's who she is. So she won the tournament. She gets the title match. They move on into the television tapings. All of which, like I said, the video is very clean. In fact, I would even go further than say that it's clean. It looks almost like a movie. Like that, the colors are very rich. This is the editor and me speaking now. That they pop the blacks in there so you can get kind of this rich color, but kind of a dark hue, so to speak. I don't know how I can really explain it to you if you never really edited video, but that's kind of what they've done there, and it looks great. I mean, it almost looks like it doesn't even belong on a TV screen, much less a computer screen. Looks like it like they almost should have that thing on a big screen somewhere. It's very reminiscent of the I can't call them vignettes that Lucha Underground does, but it is very reminiscent of what Lucha Underground does for their backstage segments, where it feels like very, like a movie. Even though the difference between the two is that WoW uses that movie camera style for just like random footage and almost backstage stuff. Whereas Lucha Underground actually sets up scene and they shoot it like a miniature movie or whatever you want to call it. So in any case, so you have that, and the first release of WoW was the championship match. It was Jungle Grrrl, aka Erica Porter, who I want to make a quick plug for us here. That if you haven't listened to the interview that I had with Erica Porter, you can go onto our YouTube channel. You can download the MP3 on Podbean, just search WPN Wrestling on Podbean, or for that matter, might as well just go ahead and get it out of the way. We're on Podbean, we're on TuneIn Radio, we're on Google Play, we're on iTunes. Leave us a review if you're there, and you can get it on either one of those venues. Just search WPN Wrestling. And getting back to the point at hand, we have an interview with her, and it was recorded just before she was set for her championship defense, where she was defending against Khloe Hurtz. So you can go and check that out if you haven't had the opportunity already. But that was the match of the night. So let's talk about the changes. The match was, well, I'll get into that later. Let's talk about the changes. All right, first thing, the venue. Beforehand, the last season, you'll see a big noticeable change in the venue. The venue takes place, like I said, in the Belasco, which is somewhat like a ballroom. That alone really gave it a nice indie feel to me. I mean, it was a little bit more high ranking than the indie feel because they had some money behind that. I mean, they had the banners up. They had the seating was done very well. Looked very organized. The laser lights that was kind of streaking across the ceilings there. So I mean, it looked very much like an indie, but it looked like a very polished indie show. So, and that's probably about the best way I could describe that. And I like it. I like that. I like it much better than what they did in the Las Vegas showroom last year. Is it last year? Yeah, I guess year before last, because they released all that stuff at one time. So that much is a plus. They also now have a 3-man booth, or a 3-person booth, if you want to call that, for commentary. Of course, David McLean, the voice of WoW, is back on commentary. He's not the lead commentary guy. The lead commentary guy would be Dan Masters, and former WOW personality and member of Harley's Angels has returned to the fold, at least in this particular stint, as one of the commentators. Easy Rider. I forget her real name. I think it's Colleen Schneider, because she's gone on, since WoW, she's gone on to be a stand-up comedian, and that explains why she's on this show and why she's the third person in the booth. As if she really has no purpose in being there other than to work in some jokes every once in a while, which, first off, if she's going to do that, there's really no reason for her to be returning as Easy Rider. I'm like, I get it that they probably felt like, well, if it's the WoW audience, we should bring back a WoW personality, and why not have Easy Rider? But what difference does it make? Easy Rider hadn't been on TV in over a decade, and she was not that big of a character where it means so much that she should come back and be underneath the persona of Easy Rider. They could have just as easily introduced her as, formerly known as Easy Rider, Colleen Snyder. See her at the Ha-Has this weekend, or whatever the heck she's doing. But she's on there, and she's the third person, and it reminds, for those of you like me that can actually remember Monday Night Raw back in the days when they had that terrible 3-man booth of, what was it, Vince McMahon, Bobby Heenan, and Rob Bartlett. Before that, Vince McMahon, Randy Savage, and Rob Bartlett. And this is not a knock on either McMahon, Savage, or Heenan, but Bartlett. Bartlett was terrible. He was just not good in that role. And this is what I get with, this is the same vibe I get with Colleen Snyder. Like that, there is almost no point in having her there, because Dan Masters has to stop what he's doing in order to get her time, get her just a little portion to speak. And he's not like really running the commentary gauntlet. Like, he ain't no Mauro Milano. I can't even say his name right now. The league on SmackDown. I'm getting tongue tied, but he's not him. I mean, he's not bad, but he ain't him. And And David McClain has his point. You know, David used to be there to kind of weave in the humor every once in a while, but now you got a lead guy in Dan Masters. You got David McClain, who's kind of the subsidiary to that, and then you got Easy Rider, who's just there for kicks and giggles. And I don't necessarily agree with it, but you know, I understand. Hey, you got to try it. You got to see if it works. But the commentary booth doesn't work for me. I think they should just go back down to the two-man booth, just Dan Masters, Dave McClain, and just be done with that. The video in it of itself, uh, visually, it looks great. It is a very jarring video, though. And it is very possible that this video will get back to WoW at some point, because they post on my page all the time when they're trying to promote their stuff. So I can only assume that they've heard some of this. So let me just go ahead and be clear about this. And I'm not, you know, I'm certainly not saying this in a manner that is insulting. Or at least I'm hoping it's not. But it is a jarring video. I mean, I sat there and I timed some of this. It moves every 5 to 6 seconds. That is way too damn much. I can't, you know, it's hard to sit there and focus on the action when you do it. And I said it when I tried to record it the first time, and I'll say it now. What they are doing is producing video for theatrics, not coverage. And I'll explain that. The difference between, say you're looking at Monday Night Raw, you're looking at Ring of Honor, you're looking at Impact Wrestling. As much as wrestling is a work, as much as wrestling is already orchestrated, as much as whatever you know, descriptive phrase you want to describe about pro wrestling, in most cases it is shot for coverage. It's shot like a sport. When you look at football, you look at them shooting for coverage because they want to make sure that you see everything that's going on. Sure, they got 10 other cameras that's all running and shooting and recording at the same time, but by and large, you're watching and you're seeing coverage. Now, when they do the highlights, when they come back and they want to cut it up and they want to get the best clips possible, then they go to those other camera shots and they, okay, let's take that one, let's take camera 6 or whatever the case may be, and they'll put that together because the highlights look better. But you can't go through highlights at a time when you're trying to make sure that everybody's seeing what's going on in a live environment. And what they have on WoW is like they're not worried about the live environment. It's not live, first off. You know, it is all pre-taped, but that doesn't mean it can't be shot live to tape. And they're just going through the motion of let's cut here, cut there, cut there, and it keeps going on and on and on and on and on. So it makes it hard to concentrate and be able to enjoy the match to the fullest. You know, even though I know sometimes they cut like that because they want to avoid the light hits or they want to avoid the botches and they want to avoid stuff like that. But man, I really wish that jarring editing style would just stop. It's really hard on the eyes for me. I mean, you go there, you watch it, leave a comment below if you actually seen it, if you're okay with it, if you're not okay with it, if you see what I'm talking about, let me know. I'd really like to hear it. But yeah, it's a very jarring editing style as far as I am concerned. The match in and of itself, from what I could tell, seemed okay because you had again you had Katie Forbes, Wow's Khloe Hurtz, and you had Erica Porter, again Jungle Grrrl, who both of which are competent enough in the ring to deliver a reasonable match. I don't think it was over the top or stellar. I would actually say if in the lore of WoW and in Jungle Grrrl matches, the match she had with Tadvik is probably the best one that she's had as of late. And I'm kind of surprised that I'm saying that. Which brings me to another point. I have to get this out while I think about it, is that, you know, you also had a big roster turnover. That's probably the other big thing that WoW kind of really illustrates when you are looking at it right now. Now, granted, they haven't released all the videos. You know, they like to do this thing week by week, keep you coming back to the website. But it seemingly is a huge turnover in WoW. Just from when I remember them announcing the match lineup some months ago before this thing was taped in the first place. A lot of those people that were on their last season just are not coming back. uh, Sunshine, I mentioned her earlier. She ain't coming back. Fire, Frost. Uh, who else is in that thing? Tadvik the Gamer. A lot of. I mean, and Tadvik went on wrestling independently for a little while. I don't think it lasted very long. I think she might have had 2 or 3 matches, but she and a number of other girls who would qualify as WoW originals are not coming back. Miss Kitty, who was Lana Starr's assistant, her personal assistant last season, she's not coming back, or at least not in the foreseeable future. She's moved on to Lucha Underground, as has one half of, was it Tropical Storm, Paradise, and El Nina. And she was El Nina, and she's gone on to being the ring announcer for Lucha Underground, which effectively killed that tag team. Which Paradise isn't coming back either. So you've lost a lot of the WoW girls, some of the names that people assumably have gotten used to in that first season of WoW. I say first season, but season 2 and 3. Those girls are just gone, and I think now that they've gotten this, they've moved on to what I would call the actual wrestling girls. Erica Porter, when I spoke to her, she's made it clear she feels like she owes David McClain a lot. She would be very willing and happy to wrestle for him, and she has shown that. She's stuck true to her word. She told me that some months ago, and she has been very true to what she said. She goes from essentially the East Coast to West Coast to take care of that for him and be his champion. And she's really kind of holding the ball for a while as it relates to that right now, and she's still wrestling for him, and with no real sign of taking other independent dates. Although I tried to talk her into it. For you promoters out there, I tried to get her to kind of agree to do some other matches outside of that. But she's really sticking to her guns. She's like, hey, David McClain treated me good, so I'm gonna, I owe him. This is my payback. That's her receipt, if you will, and she's delivering. So they have it with that. What else is new and WoW? We talked about their roster turnover and the change in style. Well, there is one other evolution. Now that I think about Jungle Girl, the evolution that kind of adds into this uh, motif that they're kind of transitioning into a independent wrestling promotion, or at least it feels that way, is that she's dressed down the cartoon version of Jungle Girl. When you go and you look at her now, she's got like this bodysuit that, yeah, she's still barefoot, but she's not literally walking around in a cheetah leopard print or whatever she used to wear at the time, and carrying a spear and claiming she's from the jungle and this, that, and other. She might use the phrase like, this is law of the jungle and stuff like that, but now Jungle Girl comes off more as a moniker opposed to I'm actually from the jungle. The best comparative I could give to that is The Undertaker. Like when The Undertaker first hit the scene, they sold it as, oh, this dude is from the dark side. He's really dead. He doesn't feel pain and all that other stuff. And now, yeah, we still call him The Undertaker today, and he still does the lightning, the gong, and all that stuff like that. But, they don't sell it like he's dead anymore and that he doesn't feel pain and all that stuff. He actually will sell for somebody if he's in the middle of a match. So that's that's the reasonable comparative I could have. She just evolved. The Jungle Girl characters evolved, and that's cool. I like that too. If you are looking at it again, there's 2 bonus clips for the episodes seem a lot more concise. Like there's an open, and there's well, not opening credits, but there's an opening sequence. Then you got the match, and then they kind of lead off at the end, letting you know, hey, this is what's coming up next week. I like that. So, the presentation has changed. I mean, it is drastically different. And I guess that's what they were looking for. It's like, we got to come back, and we got to come back hard, and we got to come back with a brand new look, a brand new feel, and it's all of that. It looks and feels differently. The only big complaint that I have about that is that jarring editing. I don't like that. Um, so you got that, and they don't really include the bonus clips. You still got to go out of the match to look at the bonus clips to kind of see what led into the match itself. So, that could be worked a little differently, but I understand that they probably are trying to keep these episodes pretty tight. And it seems like the average as it stands between those two matches is about 15 to 20 minutes or so. And that's that's cool. That's doable. You can sit down and watch that and be done. It's like, if they were to include commercials, it would be a half-hour show. So that's fine. Uh, Second episode, Abilene Maverick taking on Stephy Slays, who was one half of the Bully Busters. And oddly enough, as I was going through people who didn't come back, I think Keita Rush and Stephy Slays, who was formerly Stephanie La Maravillosa, during the Bully Buster tag team, and I think they are slated to get back together as a tag team later. They may be the only ones that have come back. They're the only ones that have really stuck around with this thing. Of course, Steffi Slays, she's got her name changed, assumably because that would be more marketable or easy to say than Stephanie Maravillosa. I guess that would be the case. So you have that, and you have Abilene Maverick, who we all know is the former NWA Women's World Champion Barbie Hayden. Also have an interview with her. Go on Women's Pro Wrestling Network YouTube channel, pull that up. But she and Abilene had a match, and I don't want to beat a dead horse with it, but I got to say it one more time. It's fine watching it, but it gets difficult at times because of the amount of cuts. But in any case, Barbie is pretty accomplished, and I think that she probably helped them have a fairly reasonable match because of her ability to carry it. Not knocking Steffi, but of course she does have a little bit of ways to go in terms of learning how to work to the standard of a Barbie Hayden. Um, Barbie's character as Abilene Maverick, the governor's daughter, has evolved. When she was presented previously, she was more or less presented as the good old, I don't want to say fun-loving, but Texas girl. And she too, much like Jungle Grrrl, had kind of that cartoon look. We're going to give you the stereotypical cowgirl presentation, the boots and the silver shorts. They always aim with the Dallas cowgirl thing. But that's been taken away, and she has kind of just gone with just wrestling gear, like another bodysuit for. Actually, now that I think about it. So her character's evolved. Now she's a heel without any rhyme or reason. I guess they feel like they can do that between the seasons. So Abilene Maverick is now the governor's daughter, and she's presented as this kind of stuck-up, rich, snotty uh, girl who saw Stephanie Slays as beneath her. She pours the tea on her at their dinner party or tea party or whatever the case may be, which then constitutes them getting a match. And this is where I said that Bambi I shouldn't say Bambi, Selena Majors kind of comes off as the ambassador to WoW, because even though she's the trainer, she's in there helping her. Like, I'll talk to David McClain for you, and I'll get you a match. So things like that. I mean, I thought that was very well done. The little vignette segment that they had there, and it also it helps push the stories along. Uh, we now know that Abilene Maverick and Lana Starr are in cahoots, or at least they're friends now. And let's rewind this back to episode 1 of season 4 a little bit. Before the matches began, Lana Starr pulls up in the limo. Of course, she's kind of upset that I'm not getting my title shot. You went behind my back and you got my doctor's information on me. That's illegal. I should sue you. And she's going back into the same thing that Lana Starr was pushing way back in 2001, where I'm going to take over the show, and it's going to be the Lana Starr show. And the lead heel manager, if you will, gets out of the limo after her. Sophia Lopez, the quote greatest attorney in the world, who had been representing Caged Heat for some time, and they also are kind of pushing towards that. So it, all in all, as I see the vignettes, I see Lana Starr getting out. She's making threats on Dave McClain. I see Sophia Lopez getting out. She's got ties with Lana Starr. Lana Starr shows up at Abilene Maverick's house, who's the governor's daughter. She's got rich ties, and they're talking about. I guess Abilene getting her way, getting her plan, like she wanted to match with Stephy Slays and this, that, and the other. It sounds like they at least have a storyline that is starting to unveil, and there is cohesive. There's a cohesive thing that's kind of being woven through. I'm trying to give it a time to play itself out. Because you have other stuff that's going on. You got the stories at the front end, you got the stories at the back end. The back end of some of these stories is that they're setting up for the split of the All-American girls. If you've followed them, Santana Garrett, Amber O'Neal on the independent circuit, you know that they've already had a match in Shine that essentially split them up, but that's not acknowledged in WoW. And they won the tag team championships some 4 years ago, so that they still have to acknowledge that they hold, but somehow the titles have been vacated, and that they're going to go because Sophia Lopez did something, got an injunction put in, whatever the heck. So the next setup is now Caged Heat versus the All-American Girls for the Wild Tag Team Championships, which would make Caged Heat a two-time champs, winning if they win. And spoiler alert, they're probably going to win it, if I remember all this correctly. If you don't want to hear all this, you just skip ahead to the end. But I think it's pretty well common knowledge at this point. A, Casey's getting the titles back. B, the All-American girls are splitting up. They all of this stuff has been shot and recorded already, and the big spoiler here, and I'm guessing that this is going to be one of the big unveils as time goes on, is that as they are setting the stage for the All-American girls to split up, which takes place when Santana Garrett shows up in their dressing room. Amber O'Neal is just sitting in the mirror. She's kind of being self-absorbed. She's putting on her makeup, this, that, and the other. And she's talking about, what are you talking about? I left you. I got into the limo. You wasn't there, so I left. So, you see the attitude kind of kicking in with Amber O'Neal. Santana's like unbelievable. And I don't believe, I'll talk to you about this later. So we know where this is going. We know Santana's going to be the babyface. We know Amber Gallows is going to be the heel. And here's the spoiler, folks. I'm going to give you a second. Okay. The spoiler there is that Amber Gallows now becomes the protege of Lana Starr. And she assumes the name of the Beverly Hill Babe. So now she's been fully wowatized, I guess, if you want to call it that. So she's taking on her new WoW persona. So, but all of that sounds cool, and I'm still waiting on that to unveil. And by the way, I know I kind of jumped ahead of the Abilene Maverick Stephy Slays match. I did say it was an okay match, but I didn't say who won in either match. So here we go. The championship was retained by Jungle Grrrl. She did beat Khloe Hurtz in the championship match in the first episode. And just as a side note, that all natural thing, I'm pretty sure that's got to be a little bit of a rib there. That has to be. There's no way that Khloe Hurtz is all natural. Not with that backside. But anyhow, second match is the Abilene Maverick and Stephy Slays. Abilene Maverick beats her clean, and she's the heel. Which, if I'm going to give a review on that one, I wasn't really planning on jumping into episode 2 already, but we're already here, so let's do it. If you were just watching that match and that match alone, it would be hard to say that Abilene Maverick is a heel. Beyond the fact that she she carries herself kind of arrogantly, but other than that, she really didn't do all that much that would make you think that she's a bad person. Everything that would lead you to believe that she's a bad person took place outside of the ring, and I guess they're banking on people to know that, but I don't see how they could unless they ran the vignettes on the big screen before the match took place or something like that. Now we would know it as a viewer and watching it here, going to the website, looking at the bonus clips, and then looking at the thing that takes place afterwards. Those things clearly show Abilene Maverick, aka Barbie Hayden, as being the heel. But as far as what goes on in that ring, like no, she didn't run away, she didn't cheat. She, none of the stuff that none of the traditional heel tactics that we would kind of look at and say, okay, she's the bad guy here. In fact, like I said, she bit her clean in the middle. That got her in a tilt-a-whirl slam, put her down, 1, 2, 3. That was it. Which only serves to show that Stephy Slays is not good because she hasn't won a match from season 2 till now, which sounds terrible. I was like, what's? How do you not win a match between that all this time? Anyway. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she'll come along and she'll win something a little bit later on. But I will say as a plus, and I hope they acknowledge this for Steffi Slays and Keita Rush, is that both of those girls have taken outside interest in like kickboxing and MMA, and even represented WoW at a kickboxing event. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how they pulled that off. I don't know if they were just intermission entertainment or whatever the case may be. But they, as Keita Rush and Steffi Slays, showed up and did some stuff in the ring. So I was like, okay, well, that's cool. And I know for a fact that Keita Rush has been like really, really getting into MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which you can see on her Facebook page. She's like really deep into it. She has gotten super, super athletic since we last saw her as Keita Rush I'm not going to say some years ago. That sounds so long. But some time ago. So if there was anybody that really deserved to stay around there, those two. I hope that they get something out of it. And I think that the storyline for them is going to be, I know they got a match against each other coming up, and I'm assuming that Lana Star is somehow going to orchestrate that. But I also believe that the Bully Busters are going to pull it together after Cage Heat wins the championships back, and they're going to challenge Cage Heat, and they're finally going to get that one big, massive win and become the tag team champions. We'll see if I'm right. That's my guess. I believe that's the storyline. I don't know that to be a fact, so I can't call that a spoiler, but that's where I believe it's heading. So it'll be fun to see how all this unfolds. So that's it. That was my quick rambling on. I can't really say quick. We was almost 45 minutes into this thing. But that was my quick rambling on about WoW and their return season 4. It has its pros, it has its cons. I think it is worth you watching. If you have any other observations about WoW in the season, please feel free to drop that information below. Go watch it. Let me know if did you like the matches? Did you like the way that it was presented? Did you like the quick cut style? Did you like how they put it in the Belasco Theater? Is it a nice environment? Did you like the evolution of the WoW characters, getting rid of some of that cartooniness that they had last season and really kind of bumping up the fact that they're a wrestling promotion opposed to just a TV show, which is funny because the wrestling and the in-ring and the characters and all that stuff have now pushed towards being more wrestling oriented, but the television product itself has gone completely in the opposite direction, and they're aiming now towards more theatrics and almost a movie feel. So who knows? But please let me know what you feel about that in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. So that is it, and we're going to get back to another podcast very soon. Probably will go in and recap on season 3 from start to finish, and that will be exclusive to our YouTube channel. That one won't be up on the the podcast traditionally, as it were, on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, so on and so forth. We'll just leave that on the YouTube channel, let that sit. So if you want to hear those, please feel free to join me on that. I'd love to have you along. These, however, season 4 will go up as normal. Since we are now kicking that off, we're gonna break that in as a normal and regular thing. Please check out for new matches, which will be popping up on Women's Pro Wrestling Network on YouTube. Go to our Facebook page, Women's Pro Wrestling Network, and give us a like there, because we drop in news all the time. For those that are not aware, Women's Pro Wrestling Network Plus, which has the best of Volume 1 available to you. And you can watch that in its entirety, all 2+ hours of it, including 3 never-before-seen matches hosted by our lovely April D. You can see all of that right now if you go on the Women's Pro Wrestling Network Plus and you click that link. Start your free trial. You have 14 days to decide whether you want to keep it or not. 14 days. Now that is enough time for you to watch that video, and if you change your mind, be done. But you have a good 14 days. You know what? Let me narrow that down. I think it might be 7. I think YouTube, knocks it on 7. Make sure you check it before you start. But you have at least 7 days to look at that video and see everything that we've got there. See the whole presentation. See the entire video release at no expense. And I know that's what a lot of people like to hear, at no expense. Until it all kicks in. Now, if you want to stay on there, we would love to have you, because we got other stuff that's coming out. But no expense to you right now. You click on there. A good 7 days. I'm gonna knock it down because I want to be safe. If you go in there and you see it as 14, then bravo. Then you get an extra 7. But you got some time to see it for free. Also, WPNWrestling.com with all roads lead to that. Definitely want to check us out there, and WPN Wrestling on Twitter. We are looking for more people on Twitter. We finally getting into the groove of doing Twitter. So there you go. That is all of our stuff. So be sure to catch us on the next podcast. Follow, like, subscribe, wherever you have to do to make sure that when these things drop, when new videos pop up, when new posts hit, when new tweets come down, you know that it is us and what we're doing and what we're talking about. Because we are getting to the point that we are now getting ready to give away some stuff. And I may be announcing that on the next show. So if you are wanting to support your lovely ladies of the independent wrestling circuit, we're going to be giving out some T-shirts. T-shirts are coming. So stay tuned and listen in for that. All right, folks. We appreciate it. Thank you for all of your support. And we'll catch you on the next show, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.